The concept of the moon as a military base is rapidly shifting from science fiction to a topic of serious global debate, propelled by the technological ambitions and strategic rivalries of major spacefaring nations. However, when examining the realism of establishing a military base on the moon and India's position in this race, both technological and geopolitical realities must be considered. The moon is increasingly viewed as the ultimate high ground in the modern strategy paradigm, potentially offering nations a vantage point for surveillance, strategic missile deployment, space-based communication, and defense against threats both terrestrial and extraterrestrial. A military outpost on the lunar surface could, in theory, control access to key space resources and enhance a nation's dominance in future conflicts stretching beyond Earth's atmosphere. Rising interest in such lunar military installations has been driven by several factors: rapid militarization of outer space through the development of satellite targeting weapons. The notion that holding a position on the moon could offer strategic advantages in terrestrial and space-based warfare. Rivalries among the US, China, and Russia, with suspicions that these countries may establish lunar keep-out zones or deny rivals access to vital lunar resources. Yet current international law, particularly the 1967 Outer Space Treaty and the 1979 Moon Agreement, restricts military use of celestial bodies, prohibiting weapons of mass destruction but leaving loopholes regarding conventional or defensive military outposts. The United States, China, and Russia have all announced plans to build lunar bases by either 2030 or 2035. But, most of these are actually envisioned as habitats for scientific, economic, and possibly security-related functions, rather than being overt military outposts. NASA's project to establish a nuclear reactor on the moon by 2030 really highlights the urgency among major powers to develop reliable power sources for a continual presence on the lunar surface. China and Russia, for their part, have also declared intentions to construct automated nuclear facilities. And, well, some analysts are warning that there could be implicit military motives behind these efforts. So, when it comes to the critical technological requirements for any lunar military outpost, a few things stand out. First, ultra-reliable power generation, like nuclear reactors or solar arrays with advanced storage, is absolutely essential. Then, you need radiation-hardened habitats and communications. Autonomous robotics and construction technologies that can actually work in lunar conditions are also key. And of course, launch vehicles capable of frequent and heavy payload missions are a must. As of 2025, operational military bases on the moon are still more of an aspiration than a reality. Budget constraints, engineering complexities, and international legal barriers are all slowing down progress. For now, most ongoing efforts are focused on dual-use infrastructure. Things like reconnaissance, communication, and resource extraction capability, which can serve both civilian and military purposes. So, India is recognized as a global space power, having achieved lunar landings, advanced satellites, and a successful anti-satellite test, which is known as Mission Shakti, back in 2019. The Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO, has, steadily expanded its technological arsenal. But even with all these accomplishments, India still faces several strategic and capability gaps, especially when compared to the superpowers that are racing for lunar dominance. Indian experts, they openly acknowledge several critical gaps. For example, there's a lack of indigenous lunar habitat technology, which is crucial for any long-term human or robotic presence on the moon. Also, India doesn't have adequate power systems for year-round lunar operations. There's no indigenous nuclear reactor ready for deployment on the moon. And, the limited budget is a real constraint. India's annual space budget is actually dwarfed by those of the United States and China, which in turn restricts rapid research and development, as well as technology demonstration at a lunar scale. India is not a party to space militarization treaties, and it also lacks a dedicated space military command. Plus, as of late 2025, there aren't any plans for a lunar outpost for defense purposes. Most Indian space missions like Chandrayaan and Gaganyaan are, well, scientific in nature and not military in their explicit scope. India's defense establishment is, acutely aware of the risks posed by China's growing space militarization. This includes the possibility of Chinese assets on the moon or in cislunar space, which could impact India's conventional and nuclear deterrence capabilities. The debate is really intensifying over whether India should, accelerate investments in counter-space technologies, set up a dedicated military space command, and pursue dual-use lunar exploration, all to avoid creating a strategic asymmetry. India's military and government have, outlined some clear future priorities. These include electronic warfare in space and developing communication systems that are resistant to satellite jamming. There's also a focus on upgraded space situational awareness, or SSA, for tracking debris and hostile assets. And finally, integrating the private sector and fostering civil-military synergy is seen as vital for innovation in defense space technologies. So, no nation currently possesses a true military base on the moon, and any moves toward that goal would honestly trigger international controversy and treaty violations. Even dual-use lunar projects are raising legal and diplomatic questions at the United Nations and among spacefaring coalitions. India, as a responsible space actor, consistently advocates for peaceful uses of outer space, but is also stepping up preparation for defense contingencies, given regional and global threats. In conclusion, the idea of a military base on the moon is, in 2025, a highly speculative proposition constrained by technological maturity, international law, cost, and significant engineering challenges. Realistically, the militarization of the moon will be dictated by a combination of technological breakthroughs, rising power competition, and ongoing efforts to develop international agreements for space security. India is preparing for a more contested space environment, but is still several technological steps away from realizing lunar military ambitions. For now, the moon as a battleground remains a scenario on the distant horizon, with India prioritizing the development of Earth-orbiting defense satellites, anti-satellite capability, and space situational awareness, while keeping a watchful eye on developments by other global space powers. Thanks for watching. If you found the video insightful, hit the like button and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.